After a full week of clients dealing with the same issue, as always, this collective consciousness is so incredible. Every single time I meet with my groups, they're always in the same zone, the same vibe. And so this week's vibe was 100% about trauma goggles. Seeing things through the trauma that I've been through, or is it the truth? Let's dive into this. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new, please click the little subscribe button, the bell to receive notifications when I release new videos. And if you've been with us for a while, thank you so much and welcome back. Diving in, just as a reminder, if you guys want to join me live every single Friday, please join my truth room. You can cancel at any time. It is a collective group of highly sensitive people doing the generational trauma work, doing the sensitive work, doing the awakening work in the world from all over the planet. Join us. Now, let's talk about today. So this topic of seeing through your trauma goggles or your true self. This is really difficult because oftentimes this is what happens when we're triggered, and then we forget that me in my trigger is not me all the other time. So often as children, we are identifying with our shame, with our trigger, and then we just think that's who we are. That's our identity. What I want you to see is you are not your trauma. Your trauma is something that happened to you that's been invalidated. And the more we validate the trauma, the less the goggles are so clear, right? We start seeing through the truth rather than these trauma goggles all the time. So when you're in trauma or in a trigger, what you really have to realize is if I'm having fear thoughts, if I'm having, a lot of times people will come to me and say, I feel paranoid. If you're having paranoid thoughts, if you're like, this person is dangerous, those things may be true, but if you're in your trigger, I would pause before I react, before I respond. Now, that's the hardest thing. You're going to be like, well, Candace, I can't pause when I'm in my thing. That's the mastery. Realizing in the moment, I am out of my window of tolerance. I am dysregulated. When I'm dysregulated, if I make a decision, it's going to be wrong 99.9% of the time. 99.9% of the time. So this is how you build self-trust and how you really start to unshame yourself, is noticing when you're triggered, noticing the trigger thoughts. They're going to be the same almost all the time that you're triggered. So you get to know your trauma instead of rejecting it and thinking I'm crazy and I shouldn't be doing this now. You have to get to know your trauma so you can start to love it, integrate it, understand it, and mostly validate it. This sounds backwards, but this is how it works. If you validate this is my trauma and all the thoughts connected to it are trauma thoughts, you start to get really aware of what's not your trauma thoughts that you can really trust into and use those times of trauma. So this is definitely self-mastery. If you need more help on that, again, please join my truth room because I go through this with them every single week in different ways. But this is so important, you guys. Your trauma goggles will start to become less potent to you when you start to notice, oh, that's what this is. Love the part that's in trauma. Love the part that's triggered. Love the part that wants to self-shame you for this shame. Don't shame yourself, but notice that part. When you can love the part of you that feels shame, when you can love the part of you that's like judging yourself for even having this trigger because you've done all the inner work and it should be gone by now. Look, your girl still gets triggered. I like to tell my group this all the time. I'm just guiding you in the ways I've guided myself. I'm still human. So I obviously still have triggers, but I am working on mastering the ways I master those triggers. And what that means is I'm aware that I'm being triggered. And sometimes even before I get triggered, I'll try to lay the environment out and be like, hey, babe, let's not do that. That's going to trigger me. Or let's not have this person around because that's triggering right now. It's not that we should be perfect and we can be ourselves around anyone. I often tell this with clients who are dealing with narcissistic partners or have had a lot of work around abuse and trauma work or have had situations in that way. I say to them, know your situation. It's not that I can be so good at this now that I drink poison and it won't bother me. If you have an amazing immune system and you drink poison, you're going to be poisoned. So If I put myself in a very toxic environment, it's going to affect me. I just might be able to deal with the effects a lot better than some people because I've been doing the work forever, right? So you have to stop spiritual perfectionism in yourself. You have to stop saying, I'm so spiritual. I've done all this inner work. It's not going to bother me. How about the truth? I've done all this work and I'm not going to put myself in a position that might bother me until I'm strong enough to handle it so then I can have boundaries and walk away. The thing that you guys sometimes struggle with is fear of putting the boundary in because I'm afraid of what they'll do. So in essence, you're supporting the abusive person over what you need, which is the abuse in the first place. I have to leave myself to cater to them. So you're in essence doing that in a more evolved way. So really realize this. My trigger vision, seeing through that vision of trigger will get less and less and less, better and better and better when you be like, wow, this is my trigger. None of these things I'm thinking are my truth. None of these things I'm thinking are my truth. However, don't say what is the truth in that moment because you're in trauma. You're in trigger. What I want you to do instead is say, I need a moment before I make a decision. I need a moment before I talk to you. I need some space to go back into nature. This is what I do when I have a trigger. If I'm lucky enough to go outside and breathe for a while, I really line up with the universe. I'm like, oh, she's back. My nervous system is back. And if you'll notice, when you learn to self-regulate, as soon as you're back, you're thinking differently. Those are your true thoughts. But one thing that blocks you from really being in your true thoughts is the self-shame and judgment of what just happened, of how you just felt with what happened. Stop it. When I'm triggered, I don't say, oh my God, I shouldn't be triggered by now. This is ridiculous. I've been doing this work for like 15 years. No, I don't say that. I say, wow, that must have really been a stuck point for me as a child. That still really hurts me. What can I do to help her? What can I do to comfort the one that still feels scared about this trigger? That will lessen your trauma and trigger by 50% right away. When you take a break from it and you move away into a different environment, that'll be another 25%. And then the last 25% to deal with this is knowing that this is still my work. I'm still in process. There's nothing wrong with it. What's wrong is what happened to you to make you feel so wrong, right? So I want you guys to go to this quick trick, right? When you're in your trigger and you're having these thoughts and you're seeing things and you're paranoid and you're going crazy and you're spinning out. I want to laugh because I've seen myself spin out. I'm like, wow, she's very animated. That girl is definitely an amazing actor at times. But it's not like we're acting. It's like we're trying to get help from someone that we can't get understood by. Stop trying to get understood by them. Understand you. Guys, if this helped you in any way, please share this video with one person. Please check all links because we are enrolling in many, many, many different things at the moment. Inner Work 2, Abandonment Wounds and Trauma Bonds starts Wednesday. If you're not in already, I'm sure there are spots open because I'm leaving it open right now. I'm going to try something new. So check that out. If you have any questions and comments, leave them below. I love you guys. I'll see you soon.